Another episode of Fueled by Craft. As I'm recording this episode, week 2 of the preseason starts today. We got the Titans versus the Falcons, and the Chiefs play today, but I can't remember who the Chiefs play. But nevertheless, one of the teams playing tonight, the Atlanta Falcons, is a team that I've been kind of following over these last 2 years, especially once they signed head coach Raheem Morris. I really like a lot of the players they got over there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think they're far off from being one of those top teams in the NFC. They had some really competitive games last year against some really good teams. They beat the Eagles week 2, one possession loss to the Chiefs, 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl. They gave both of them really good games. They also swept the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is an in-division rival. Went 2-0 against them last year, which is super hard to do. So they play good teams really well. It's just a lot of the small things that they got to tidy up on, majority of the things on defense. But I just want to start off with the offense and some things that I have some questions about, some things that I like, some things that I don't like. Starting off with the quarterback, I'm a big Michael Penix guy. In one of my previous videos, I voiced that I believe that he could be a top 10 quarterback at the end of the season this year, as far as like productivity and just off of eye test thing. I think stats will back it up as well, but he's got plenty of guys he can throw the ball to in a great running back room that can help him achieve that. It's just more about staying healthy. One of the better passers in the game. I was watching an interview with Raheem Morris. I can't remember if it was Chris Long or if it was just one of the Atlanta beat reporters, but they were saying how, according to the coaching staff, Raheem Morris, if you guys didn't know, he was a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams before he accepted his job as head coach. And a lot of the coaching staff has voiced that Michael Penix is showing a lot of similarities to Matt Stafford, who was the quarterback in Raheem's time in Los Angeles, as far as just decision-making, IQ. Everybody knows he's one of the most accurate passers in football. So those are really strong comparisons. Again, he just has to stay healthy, but I'm on the same boat as them. I think he's one of the best passers in the game. Super accurate, can make any throw, the long ball, intermediate routes, medium routes, short routes, you name it, he can throw it. And he's actually a sneaky athlete. He's had a lot of injuries, especially lower leg injuries, lower body injuries. But when need be, he can be mobile and get out and throw on the run. So I think he's a very well-rounded quarterback. And like I said, I believe he could be top 10 by the time this season is over, as long as he stays healthy. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Michael Penix can put together. Last year, they had a top 10 offense, or a top 5 passing team, top 10 rushing team. So that's really impressive. I'm not sure if any other teams can check both of those boxes. If they can, I don't know. In my opinion, the most balanced offense in the game. Bijan Robinson last year had 1.4K rushing, 14 touchdowns, 60-plus receptions. He was a do-it-all back. One of the best running backs in football, in the same conversations as guys like Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey when healthy, Saquon Barkley. I think he's up there with those guys. I would consider him elite, man. He's super good. In 10 games last year, Bijan had at least 90 yards or more rushing, which is super tough, man. He's one of the best running backs in the game. And like Michael Penix, by the time this season is over, I think he can easily be up there with Saquon as the best running back in the game, period. So really high hopes from that quarterback and running back in Atlanta. I think Tyler could start on more than half the teams in the NFL. He had almost 700 rushing yards behind Bijan and also added 3 touchdowns, so super productive. Before I go over to the receiving room, another thing about Michael Penix, he was 1-2 as a starter last year, so he got to start the last 3 weeks, and both of those losses were overtime losses, so they're really close. Kind of backing up what I said earlier, they're not far off from winning, man. They just got to tidy up the small things, and this could have been a totally different team record-wise last year if they just got better at the little things. Switching over to the wide receiver room, which I'm a huge fan of. They don't have as much depth as I would want them to have, but the top 4 to 5 guys are really solid, and if they stay healthy like everything else, I think they can put up some huge numbers this year. Falcons have 4 players with 60 catches, one of them being Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Ray McCloud. So having 4 guys with 60-plus catches is pretty impressive, considering the fact that one of those guys wasn't even Kyle Pitts, who was deemed to be like this generational guy, who I still think can achieve that, but outside of his rookie year hasn't really met the standard that we've kind of put on him. But I think with Michael Penix and this new coaching staff, I expect a big year out of Kyle Pitts as well. I expect a big year out of a lot of these players offensively, which is why I'm so high on them being a really tough team, a really top team in the NFC. Last year, Drake London racked up 100 catches, top 10 in the NFL. 1.2K reception yards, top 10 in the NFL. And he also had 9 touchdowns, again, top 10 in the NFL. Again, top 10 in the NFL. So they've got 3 guys at 3 different positions on the offensive side of the ball that are arguably top 10 players. Well, not so much Michael Penix. That's I'm more with the minority on that one. And it is early. Like I said, he only has 3 starts. But Drake London, I think it's fair to say, is the top 10 wide receiver in the league coming into this year, just basing it off last year alone, potential and things like that. Still super young. Basketball background, super big receiver, a killer in the 50-50 balls, big time player, can make big plays. Another thing about Drake London, he's also really good in the run game, run blocking. So it's easier for guys like Bijan and Tyler to bounce out to the outside when you've got big receivers like Drake London blocking for you. So he's a really solid run blocker. Probably the best in the league at the wide receiver position, to be honest. Last game of the season, he had 187 yards against Carolina. Torched them boys. They couldn't do nothing with him, man. And then one of the games against Tampa Bay, was it Tampa Bay? Yeah, one of the games against Tampa Bay this year, he had 154 yards. So he's one of those receivers who can put up monster numbers if you don't contain him and don't take him out the game early. Because that's one of the guys where you just don't want to get him going at all, because it'll be a nightmare trying to get him stopped once he gets going. A guy like that can just weigh down on you physically and just constantly make plays. And when you can take a break from that and run the ball with the best of them, it's really hard to contain this offense, man. Wide receiver 2, Darnell Mooney, who's a little banged up right now. So I'm not sure if he'll be ready to go by week 1. But he is wide receiver 2 on his team. He hauled in 64 receptions, 8 yards short of hitting 1K, 992 yards. So Atlanta almost had 2 guys with 1K receiving yards. He added 5 touchdowns, and he's the perfect lightning to the thunder of Drake London. Super fast, vertical threat, the stretch receiver type guy who can really take the top off. And he's shown that he can get a lot of production too. He's just not one of those guys where you maybe throw the ball to him once or twice in a quarter. He can constantly make plays, and Kirk Cousins, he seemed like one of those guys Kirk Cousins relied on, especially early in the season. And then you had another speedy guy like Ray McCloud. He's more of like a jet sweep, gadget guy, also a deep downfield threat, but he's more of like that guy you can kind of get creative with out the backfield in the slot, line up outside. Super athletic, agile guy. And he also hauled in 686 yards. So super productive and a solid wide receiver 3. Moving on. Now, switching to Kyle Pitts, again, one of those guys who I hope to have a big season this year, has the potential to do it. Michael Penix, the first day of training camp, came to the podium, and I think one of the first things he said was,
"See, we got KP the ball today. Gonna be a lot of that."
I got Kyle Pitts the ball today, so that's a good sign. His rookie year with Matt Ryan, he notched 1K, so I think a guy like Michael Penix is the perfect quarterback that can kind of get his confidence back, give him the ball often and early and get him rolling, and that'll just open up the game for all these other guys. And reports out of training camp are that Kyle Pitts is doing a lot of work at wide receiver, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him lining up outside, especially in the slot, in those mixed matches on, smaller DBs or even on linebackers, because he might be a little too fast for them. Really not that good in pass blocking, so whenever he's on the field, I do expect him to pass the ball most of the time. I'm just really interested to see what Kyle Pitts can do offensively, especially if he's starting to get more like wide receiver looks versus tight end looks. Pitts racked up 47 catches, 602 yards, and he also hit the end zone 4 times. So he's got the potential to really make big plays. Still young in his career, still got time, and hopefully now with them having a steady quarterback and not a guy like Matt Ryan who was on his way out, or a bridge quarterback like Kirk Cousins, he can build some chemistry with this guy. He can, Michael Penix can get him going. Another guy that they brought in and I was super high on was Nick Nash out of San Jose State. Quarterback turned wide receiver. First few years in college, he was playing quarterback. San Jose State got this transfer. You can look it up. I'm not too sure who the guy was, but they got a transfer, so he wasn't seeing too much time at quarterback. Nick Nash switches over to wide receiver and then booms onto the scene once he makes that position change. You don't really see guys switch positions like Nick Nash did and then go from being just like an average football player to a unanimous All-American, which is what he achieved at the end of the 2024 college season. In 12 games last year, Nick Nash scored in 11 of them. Super tough. That guy finds the end zone. One of those guys that you call a quarterback's best friend. You throw it to him, you're going to catch the ball, man. He had a crazy catch against USC where he tipped the ball to himself midair. I'm going to drop the clip, but the dude got hands, man. He got hands. He's tough. One game against Kennesaw State, he had 17 receptions, 225 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That boy was killing them, man. He couldn't be stopped. And then a week after that against Washington State, racked up 16 more catches, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So in 2 weeks, this dude had 33 catches, 377 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I don't want to hear about who was it against. It's D1. That's super tough to do, and that's something that we shouldn't take lightly, man. Last thing about Nick Nash, and probably the most important thing, he was the Triple Crown winner in college last year. So he led the league, he led the nation in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns. With a team that, like I said, I think lacks depth at the receiver position, I think was a great acquisition, dare I say a steal. You know what I'm saying? So really excited to see what he does in Atlanta. And switching over to the other side of the ball is the most important part of this whole equation. The offense, I have no doubts that they're going to do what they did last year, which would be a top 10 offense. They had a lot of changes on defense. They bring in defensive coordinator Jeff from the Jets, Jeff Ulbrich, who's a really good defensive coordinator. They drafted 4 guys that I really enjoyed watching in college last year. They bring in Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Billy Bowman, and Xavier Watts. So you bring in 2 linebackers, both who can get after the quarterback. James Pierce is more of an in-the-ground type guy, where they said Jalen Walker is described as a spinner player, so he can play on the ball and off the ball as far as on the line. He can play on the line and off the line, similar to like what Micah Parsons is doing in Dallas. James Pierce's job is mostly just to get after the quarterback. We add 2 DBs, and Xavier Watts, 13 interceptions at Notre Dame last year. I really wanted my Jets to take him. I really think he's good. Him and Malachi Moore were 2 safeties last year, and that guy out of Texas, the African dude out of Texas, were 3 safeties that I was like, I really want my team to take. So Atlanta getting him is really almost a steal in my opinion. And then Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma, he's getting some really high praises. He's making plays in this offseason. He's making plays in training camp. So you add 4 guys in the draft who I think make immediate impact to the team and really help shape up the defense, which seems to be holding that team down from reaching playoff success. They were 31st, so second to last in the league in sacks and pressures on the quarterback, which is not good at all. Which is why you add a guy like Leonard Floyd in free agency. He has almost 50 sacks in the last 5 years. I think he has 48. So he can help be opposite of James Pierce and get after the quarterback, help tighten up that defensive line and get those guys swinging off the edge. And sometimes Jalen Walker will be down there too. So that'll be interesting to see if they can get that going. And James Pierce, bro, he ran a 4.47, so he is super quick. So he can get after the quarterback. So any of these guys rolling out, adding a guy like that who can kind of chase down these quarterbacks and get pressure on them outside the pocket is really important, especially for a team who was 31st in pressures last year. So I hope to see that change for the Falcons. I seen this crazy stat, and I don't want to mistake. I don't remember the source that I got it from, but it was a reliable source. Trust me on that. The Falcons were in the red zone. The Falcons gave up a touchdown 65% of the time, which is not good. Again, another bottom of the league stat that I think needs to get tightened up. But adding these guys, I think you can kind of make some noise. I think, realistically, I'm not saying the Falcons need to be a top 5 defense next year. But if they can be, 15, middle of the pack or really good, I think they can really give that team some grace and allow them to win some games if they can just be an average defense. They got a tough start to the season. 4 out of their first 5 games are against teams who made the playoffs last year. I don't remember all the teams, but I know it's the Buccaneers, the Bills, the Vikings. I don't remember the other team, but they got a rough start to start the season, but I think that'll be definitely a measuring stick to see where they are as a team. And if they can at least, split those games to get 3 out of those 5, I think they've got a real shot at competing in the NFC, especially for one of those top playoff spots, man. So excited to see what the Falcons do tonight in their second week preseason game against the Titans. We'll see what they do. One day closer to the season. I can't wait. Whenever the season comes out, I'm going to be heavier on the content just because now it's more just speculations and not really talking about what we see done on the field. But appreciate you guys for watching, liking, subscribing. Let me know what you think about the Falcons, man. If you think they're going to be good, they're going to make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. I think they make it, man, as long as they stay healthy. So another episode of Fuel by Craft. Appreciate y'all, man. I'm out.